Quick disclaimer before the video starts, I am really sick right now, and instead of, giving myself time to feel better, I decided that I want to just make the video, so I'm going to do it, and I'm going to try to sound as good as possible. With that being said, let's go to the video. I'm going to be honest with you, DreamWorks is hands down my favorite animation studio. In their heyday, DreamWorks pumped out timeless classic after timeless classic. Prince of Egypt, Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, Megamind, Rise of the Guardians, and more are all movies that captivated viewers and found themselves in the hearts of all who watched them. The thought, time, love, and grit put into these movies to make sure that they turned out not only enjoyable, but magical is what defined DreamWorks. Alright, hold up guys. I'm changing where I'm sitting because my chair is too squeaky. Anyway, okay, here we go. And that's what I can appreciate about this company. I recognize Pixar's ability to give voice to the unheard in our world. I recognize Disney's ability to captivate its viewers with its wonderful worlds that they create. And I can appreciate Sony Animations for turning a new leaf and pioneer a new style of animation. But with DreamWorks, I admire their ability to make their dreams work, because that's what they did. Whenever they had an idea for a movie, they stuck with it, fighting tooth and nail to make sure that that movie came out the best it can be. Whether it's a beloved franchise or standalone movie with depth and layers to each and every one of them. For example, let's take a look at a well-known franchise. Shrek was a simple movie about a hideous ogre that falls in love with a beautiful princess, right? Well, to some, that's all that movie was. But with DreamWorks, whenever they have a seemingly simple story, they do their darndest to fill it up with depth and emotion. If you take the time to actually process the Shrek movie and franchise, you'll find out that there's more than what's on the surface. Some would say there's layers. This story is about a lost soul on a journey to figure out how to love others, himself, and the beautiful life that he was given. And I guess, how to set the mood. Look, I don't know. Shrek the Third is commonly agreed upon to be bad that I don't even think I need to go into detail. Anyway, Shrek, among other films and franchises, shows that DreamWorks isn't just a studio that was made in vain to spit in the face of Pixar, but to create art and stories that stands the test of time. Granted, a lot of DreamWorks movies weren't made to be perfectly crafted emotional stories, but to be genuinely hilarious comedies, such as Shark Tales or the Bee Movie. But even then, sometimes DreamWorks can pull out all the stops to create an amazingly crafted story that is also undeniably comedic gold. The movies that they pumped out were cared and nurtured for, and you could tell that the teams put in effort to create an enjoyable viewing experience for people of all ages. Sure, they've dropped the ball multiple times in their heyday, but so does every good animation studio. Even if one of the balls that they dropped forever shattered the image of an amazing franchise that made the general public deem entirety of said franchise as utter cartoon cavity, that franchise being, of course, Monsters vs. Aliens.
Weapon like this needs to be in the hands of somebody responsible.
But it's excusable considering that with every bad movie they put out, they would follow it up with multiple better ones. Or at least, that's what it once was. There was a distinct point at which DreamWorks started putting out content that really didn't live up to the movies of their past. I'd mark this point being at the release of Rise of the Guardians in 2012. Unfortunately, this movie wasn't well received, and in vain, because this movie had everything anyone could want in a DreamWorks movie. Funny and intriguing characters, mystical world, and a rich, deep storyline. This movie isn't perfect, of course. Few movies rarely are, but the bad qualities about this movie are far and few between, and all the things good about this movie pop and overshadow those mistakes. Now, the reason why I mark DreamWorks' turn to the dark side at the release of Rise of the Guardians is that this is when they seem to switch up that previously mentioned pattern of releasing good movies regularly and subpar movies every now and then. To the opposite, after this point, their movies seem to have a major dip in quality. Of course, some of their movies released during this point are good, some being, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Captain Underpants, and The Boss Baby.
What the fuck?
But this period is when DreamWorks started releasing some of their worst projects. Like, honestly, for the longest time, I thought movies like Trolls, Boss Baby, and Turbo were Illumination movies. It hurts to think that the same studio who made Home made The Prince of Goddamn Egypt. This studio has recently been churning out trash remake or half-baked standalone films that spit in the face of the greats that DreamWorks had once created, and subsequently spits on the face of everyone who loves this studio, and being honest, it really stings. From a person that throughout his life gravitated to DreamWorks for their hysterical comedies and touching stories, watching the studio as it turns into an Illumination clone really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'd rewatch beloved classics like Shrek Forever After, Megamind, or How to Train Your Dragon with a looming thought inside my head being that DreamWorks can never reacquire the ability to create such powerful stories that they once so often made. I thought it was near time to switch my favorite studios from DreamWorks to Sony Animations for a plethora of reasons personally, but one being what DreamWorks lacks: Sony Animations is looking into their future with the newfound ability to create breathtaking, amazing movies, some of which not only reflect some of the best Pixar, Disney, and even DreamWorks movie, but surpasses them, steering their way with a bright future ahead of them. But comparable to Sony Animations' future looking illuminated, so does DreamWorks. Sure, they do have some questionable sequels and trequels, but among the typical DreamWorks garbage, there seems to be a glimmer of hope for this dying studio, that hope being Bad Guys. I'd like to say that the first time I heard of the Bad Guys was in an advertisement I watched before Spider-Man No Way Home, but unfortunately, that is not the case. I stumbled across this movie while on TikTok, wherein the person was, let's say, admiring the attractiveness of the main character. TLDR, they were saying that they found the wolf with the praise king hot. Anyway,
I have a piss kink. SpongeBob, that is fucking me too.
Other than that, this small clip was all I heard about this movie, and from that, it sparked my attention. Everyone in the comments, including myself, was confused as to what this movie was. Unfortunately, this movie has so little conversation about it, other than, the artist at E621. So real quick, I'm gonna give a short synopsis of the film given by the trailer. A couple of animals, deemed evil by their society, live a life of crime because to them, that's all they can be. But seemingly out of nowhere, one act of approval from that society that the main character endures make them want to change and be better. From there, they try to be good, but doing so is no easy challenge. So already this movie seems to be at least within the same breath as some of the DreamWorks greats. A storyline about a group of people deemed bad only to defy odds is a storyline that has DreamWorks written all over. Granted, this trope has been played out multiple times in media, and hell, DreamWorks has even played its hand with this idea multiple times, some working and some not. But just because a general plot for a movie has been used multiple times does not mean that it's unoriginal. Megamind and Shrek are two great movies that experiment with this trope to some extent and are two vastly different storylines. And what sets them apart from each other and makes them good movies is the execution of that trope. Now, of course, we don't know much about the Bad Guys. All the information we have of this movie is through the trailer. So using this trailer, let's take a look at a few criteria that can give us some sort of gauge as to see how well this movie can be. Comedy. This trailer genuinely made me laugh multiple times throughout it. Mr. Wolf wagging his tail against his will after that old lady complimented him was really hot. Funny. It was fun. Mr. Shark faking a pregnancy to fool the guards, only for the guards to take the shark. Oh, that was a joke in my script. I didn't want to actually have it in. Mr. Shark faking a pregnancy to fool the guards, only for the guards to take the bait, was hilarious. And Mr. Snake straight up eating all of those guinea pigs. I've never found a scene in a trailer funnier. Like, the entire concept of sending a snake in to save rodents is funny in itself, but for the snake to actually go through with it only to devour them all? Elite. And when you compare these jokes to other comedies in the DreamWorks lineup, I'd say it surpasses them. I mean, you can't really say that Boss Baby is funnier. Boss Baby can't even be said in the same sentence as funny because that is how far away Boss Baby is from that concept. It's safe to say that if the comedy in the movie is equal to the comedy in the trailer, we're looking at a funny movie out of us. Animation, yeah. Holy hell, when I watched this, I thought it was Sony Animations making this. This style of animation is such a palate cleanser from the cookie cutter hellscape that most media find themselves cursed in. Like, Spider-Verse and Mitchell vs. the Machines are two of the best animated movies out there in regard to their animation alone, and The Bad Guys echoes that, and not even slightly. The usage of motion lines for action scenes, like when Mr. Wolf talks to the camera or when a character makes a sudden movement, or when the camera pans around, perfectly emphasizes and magnifies the animations to the level unreached by most of the best animated pictures out there. Oh my god, the animation is so beautiful. The eyes, the humans, the lighting, the fighting. I might be overhyping this too much, or just overjoyed that this animation isn't comparable to the animation of TV shows and movies that I've been watching, but the Bad Guys animation seems so unique and bombast that I cannot wait to watch this movie, even if the movie turns out complete garbage. Like, this movie can be as bad as the Emoji Movie or Minions in terms of comedy and storyline and characters, and I'd still leave that cinema a happy man for being able to watch such a magnificent animation at work. Oh my god, I'm excited for this movie. Character. So this story probably wouldn't have the same effect if the main characters were humans. These characters are intentionally predatory / evil animals because that is what we as society see as bad. Now, of course, any 5-year-old who's only ever seen Illumination movies has the mental capacity to understand that, but the reason why I bring this up is that this also has been a played out trope in the already played out bad guys turn good trope. But then again, like previously stated, you can't really do much about that because this story wouldn't work with humans. I mean, like, who in society would we understand as bad? Minorities? Republicans? That one white kid from Steven Universe PSA?
Black people can't marry white people.
Being a minority myself, I'd probably say that animals better represent this cliche bad guys than humans. Another movie that uses this story device is Zootopia, and seeing how they try to inflate predators, the minorities, and prey to white people. It turned out really icky, and I just not it. So as long as the bad guys don't follow what Disney did, I think these characters will be enjoyable seeing their journey transition from bad to good. And honestly, that's all the criteria we can pick apart from this trailer. Overall, from what we have, I think this movie is going to turn out amazing and a step in the right direction for DreamWorks as a whole. Or hell, even if this movie turns out amazing but the studio still turns out garbage afterwards, at least we'll have one list hallmark in the DreamWorks lineup that represents what DreamWorks can and has done so often in the past. And if this movie bombs, and DreamWorks drops another ball, like they've done so often in the close past, then this studio's representation might fall even further down in the court of public opinion, which makes me very sad. The Bad Guys is a story about a group trying their best to claw out of society's opinion about them, labeling them as good, rather than bad, and in a sense, this could be a metaphor for what DreamWorks has become. With this movie, they might have the ability for everyone to see them for what they once were, a good animation studio, and the Bad Guys might just help them be seen as one. Boom, that's how you make a first video. Let's go! Okay, I'm done here. Leave.
Hey DJ, play that funky beat. All the kids say movies sweet, cause the music's bumping, parties pumping.